Thank you, Amalia, for joining today for the podcast of the Bolster project. We have the opportunity to discover and talk more in depth about the work packages where CG was involved in, and I think it would be very good to hear your perspective on our activities. If you would like to say something about yourself, I think within the project, it will be very nice for our audience.
All right. So thank you for having me. My name is Amalia. In this project of Booster, I'm kind of leading the process of certain work packages, especially for the work packages related to the research and to the Reactivate campaign that is within the work package number 3. I was also involved in many other activities in the Booster project itself, including the reaching out of the math groups and also the networks regionally in Saxony-Anhalt, but also in Erfurt and Weimar.
So, Amalia, my next question is, what were the main topics and methodologies explored during the training course of the capacity building program?
Yeah, we used non-formal education methods. So this includes facilitation skills, the skills to understand the community, so understanding community engagement and how to engage the stakeholders in your projects or initiatives. This was also one of the methods that we did use. We also use certain methods of community design thinking, visualizations of the vision of what they imagine can happen in the community.
So can you tell from the beginning these different sessions that come to your mind when we talk about the training course?
Yeah, so we started with the sessions from Valentin Schmel from OMA. He was working on certain exercise or practices about how to understand learning, but more like from the psychological point of view of a teacher, and then how to open up people's mind in order to open to something that they have not yet learned before. And then we continue with a understanding of the engagement itself from Stefan Prager from Platform. There was also sessions coming from Anton, more about the theoretical builds up about the green transformation itself. So he took that theory into the practice and tried to facilitate the vision thinking, so the participants could visualize their vision towards Lego making, how they want to see something change or transform in their community, but like in a very playful way. And we also have a photo voice session by Nevelina and Michael. I think this was something that the participants have to test out in their communities, so they kind of find a way on how to present their regions. So they were involved already during these workshops. We also had community design thinking. The participants were invited to create a kind of prototype of how they imagine the community practices or the community initiatives could look like, to identify what are the challenges in reaching them out. And then in the end, they had a social media exercise as well. What is important from project is that you could communicate it to the wider audience and to disseminate this, and also how to make engaging social media strategy in order to invite more people towards their action. So this is also something that we provide.
That sounds very engaging and full program for this training course. And the participants, what do you think they got in terms of the skills, if you could name?
They could create a project writing, project application, because during this Reactivate campaign, we kind of stimulate how project application would look like, because they need to provide us with their ideas, right? So they went back to their communities, they reached out their stakeholders and the other initiatives. They had to brainstorm about what kind of initiatives that are connected to the just transition in the region, because such scale of projects perhaps means nothing in compared to the just transitions mechanisms, because they have specific funding for that, right? You talk about like billion of euros, millions of euros for the bigger projects intended by this just transition funding. So we talk about a very small sprinkle of initiatives in compared to that. It is about creating the hope in the community through communal actions. against this bigger framework, that they are not having anything to do with that, but they are impacted by the just transition policy, because we talk about the communities where 50% of their inhabitants were wiped out because of the post-industrialization, because of the means of their living has kind of gone. They had to deal with many people moving out from their communities, from their city. So the city is dying, the region is dying. So there is a sense of loss of hope of what can they do in order to bring the life back, if this is something that is worth stay for. What they learn is that it is possible, and we found out that certain initiatives that we created towards this project has been continued until today. So some of our math groups from sites, for instance, we initiated with some initiatives called ZAK, which is a Zeit Action Tage. Yeah. Now they kind of continued it with ZAK. So there is a continuations of initiatives, but also taking over of the ownership, which we find it, that's the whole point of this Reactivate campaign.
Maybe to summarize, what do you think is the lessons learned from these processes?
Yes, thank you for that questions. I think we as a community builders, or we as a community facilitators, we often forget that collaborations, first of all, stands for a value. We need to first establish the common values of what we would like to achieve in order to create a long-lasting and healthy relationship. Without that, it's very difficult to mitigate or
manage
any conflicts that may occur, because we learned that in many cases when we try to establish this relationship, sometimes you took it for granted that we may expect that people who are working with another people may have certain level of understanding, and then we take it as a granted. But then actually we need to be able to create that relationship in order for them to understand what is our mission. But the best way actually to establish that mission together from the get-go, so that the relationship can last longer.
So it's connected to the same mission.
Exactly. So you need to know what's the end goal, but then that's kind of created together, and then the relationship kind of going more genuine. But only because of that the collaborations becomes mutual, because then you don't have to force certain power to that, and that's only between organizations, right? And then you have to also kind of extend it to the communities. So how to enable this agency in the community. But I think it starts first from establishing the healthy relationship with whoever you are going to collaborate with.
Human relationships.
Yes. Yes,
that's very insightful. Thank you so much, Amalia, and we will be back with the more podcasts for Bolster.